Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for episode 19 of Real Talk with Jesse and Sherrard. We are so excited about this episode. Jesse had the privilege of meeting Councilman Lesli Harris and her team at Via Link's Marguerite Red Wine Awards, and she agreed to come on our podcast. So we are really making it as podcasters. But we are super, super excited. Thank you so much for coming on with us. Just going to intro our guest for everybody real quick in case for some reason y'all are not familiar. But today we have on Councilmember Lesli Harris. Councilmember Lesli Harris is a dedicated advocate, attorney, and community leader who is committed to justice, housing equity, and preserving New Orleans culture. Councilmember Harris has an amazing career. Before joining the City Council, Lesli served as Chief of Staff to Loyola University's first woman president, where she played a key role in stabilizing the university's finances and also leading its COVID-19 response and drafting policies to protect students, faculty, and staff. Now on the council, she has championed quality of life, public safety, justice, housing initiatives, securing funding to eliminate the backlog of untested sexual assault kits, and also working to reopen the city's DNA lab and earning her the Champion of Change Award from STAR. She's also been a leading advocate for affordable housing, which is such an important issue. Councilmember Harris remains deeply engaged in the community, serving on the boards of the New Orleans Children and Youth Planning Board, the New Orleans Tourism and Cultural Fund, Louisiana Museum Foundation, and the Sanford Sandy Krasnoff Criminal Justice Council. She is a proud resident of Central City, and Lesli is committed to fighting for a safer, equitable, and more vibrant New Orleans. And we just cannot thank you enough for coming on with us today.
No, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for suggesting this, and I'm really excited to talk about housing, homelessness, all things New Orleans.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, we are so excited. And for our listeners who may not know, could you briefly explain your role as a city council member and what those duties are and which communities you represent?
Sure. So I'm the city council person for District B. District B, I like to say, is B for best because it is the best district. It encompasses everything from the convention center over to the arena and the Superdome, Mid-City, Xavier area, Garden District, Gert Town, Central City, where I live. So it really, oh, and the Central Business District. So it really is a diverse area of the city, from everything from very wealthy folks to some unhoused folks. And I know we're going to get into that later on. As far as what a city council person does, we are the legislative body of the city of New Orleans. And so we write policy, we regulate utilities like Entergy and now Delta, the gas utility. We do a lot of land use. So anything that's built, we have to look at and approve typically. So we do a lot of land use. And the biggest thing is constituent services. So we get, I don't know, probably 800 emails every week of people who are upset about city services, who haven't gotten city services, but we also get some complaints when things are fixed because of our intervention. So yeah, it's a tough job. It's a part-time job, if you can believe that. So I also have a lot. It's not really a part-time job. It's just technically a part-time job, but not really. I'm here all the time. And Emma, who's with me as well. Say hello, Emma.
Hello.
She's waving. Emma's part of my team. I have a team of 5 people who try to keep District B in line. Emma, who's my communications person. I have a land use person, a chief of staff. Bryce, who does operations, and then Matthew, who people love, does constituent services. And so we try to keep the district headed in the right direction.
Wow, what a balancing act, man.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Just a casual part-time job, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, just casual. It's really not a part-time job. I work more in this job than I ever have in my life, but I love it. I love the people, I love the community, and I love the progress that I see that we make. So everything from a street light being out that then is fixed, we count that as progress. And so it's, we have to celebrate the small victories and the big.
Well, yeah, and the small things are big to people, you know, even just fixing a stoplight, you don't know who then that made their commute better or made the streets safer. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Clearly, as evident even from just our brief overview of your advocacy and your championing efforts, you are so passionate about protecting our communities. Can you talk to us some about what inspired the launch of the Home for Good program and what progress you've seen since its inception?
Yeah, so Home for Good is a partnership between the City of New Orleans, United Way, and the Greater New Orleans Foundation. It's a public-private partnership where foundations, people can give to help our unhoused community. It's if you go on the website, it's homeforgoodneworleans.org, right, Emma? Not com. If you know, if you can donate $1, you can donate $1,000. So this really is a community-driven uh, effort to try to get our unhoused community housed. And so through Home for Good, we have housed over 1,000 people, which is
Wow.
amazing. And how this came about is Dr. Vagno and I, Jenna Vagno, who's the chief medical officer of the City of New Orleans, are having coffee one day. And we knew that we had a homelessness crisis, although not at the level of some other cities around the nation. But we realized we needed to do something. And the majority of folks who were unhoused at that time were sleeping under the Calliope overpass. There was a big encampment by the convention center. And Dr. Vigno and I said, how are we going to tackle this? And together we started the city's first Office of Homelessness Strategies and Services, where that office really works with the nonprofits who work in the homelessness space to really make sure that everybody is rowing in the same direction. So that was step one. And then we got on board Clutch Consulting, who has done consulting services in other cities like Houston, Dallas, around homelessness. And so they've been working with us to come up with a plan and a sustainability plan, because you can't just do this work once. It has to be ongoing and sustained. And then finally, we got with our business community, our nonprofit community, to found Home for Good. And again, it's a place where there's data around how many encampments we've closed. We've closed 8 of the 14 major encampments so far.
Wow.
And that's since 2024. So if you think of the progress that we've had in the short amount of time, it's just really been amazing. And what Home for Good, the money that is given through Home for Good helps people with moving kits. So once they get housed, a lot of our unhoused folks have nothing. So it's like moving kits, furniture. Sometimes landlords are scared to rent to people who are formerly unhoused. And so sometimes we have to incentivize those with additional funds for security deposits and things like that. And that's what all this money goes to.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're really proud of the work that we've done. And again, getting over 1,000 people housed in permanent supportive housing, closing 8 of the 14 major encampments. It's just really been great work by so many people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a lot. That's a huge progress within a year. So that's great. What do you think made this shift in approach, leading with housing and compassion, so effective?
I think that anytime I was at a church one time, and there was a preacher who was preaching, and he said something that really hit me. It's like, you can't ask somebody to get a job or take care of themselves if they don't have the basic of a roof over their head, right?
Right.
So you think about folks, and frankly, I've had neighbors who have been pushed out of my neighborhood and who were living under the Calliope. So these are our neighbors. Like these folks are family members. They are folks who just maybe got kicked out of their housing. You think about the women and children that I know that you all serve, and it's like women who are sleeping with their children in a car because domestic violence situations. So
Right.
you really do have to lead with compassion and think about how can you get these folks stabilized, how can we get them into housing so that they can then do whatever they need to do to take care of themselves?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just like love your approach so much and the way that, I mean, clearly your passion and compassion shines through, which is amazing. And just upholding the integrity of these folks that you are helping to become housed and thinking long term too about, okay, if they're housed, are they going to have toilet paper? And are they, it's amazing to think so long term. And clearly you've thought about that with your network of partners that you've been bringing in. What has this collaboration looked like, and why do you think the wide network of partnership has been so central to the success of this initiative?
So, I come from sort of a corporate background, right? So I was a partner in a law firm for a long time, before I went to Loyola. I think what we did and what we were able to do was make a business case for this. So one of our partners is New Orleans and Company, Kevin Ferguson, who's amazing, amazing, and has been working with us since day one on this effort. But there is a business case of getting folks housed and stabilized, and also getting our common areas sort of cleaned up so folks aren't having to trip over people as they traverse the city. So that's really how we made the business case for this to the business community, to say, put your money to these efforts, because this gets you the end result that you want. And I can tell you, we haven't persuaded everyone. When the governor did the sweeps around Super Bowl, there were people who really cheered him on.
Mhm.
But that effort costs 19 to $20 million
Wow.
to put people in a warehouse for, what was it, 2.5 months? I'm looking at Emma, 2.5 months. $19 million, I think 150 people was ultimately the count for 2.5 months. Just think about that amount of money and how many people we could house on a permanent basis
Right.
going forward, right? And so there's also a business case against what the governor did in favor of what we're doing with Home for Good. And so I think that's how we have to hit the business community and convince them that this is the right way to go.
Yeah, really showing the efficacy and like the fiscal data is so important.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And I personally had the honor of sitting with you and your team at the Via Link Marguerite Red Wine Awards. Can you tell us how Via Link played a role in connecting people to housing and crisis services?
So you guys do amazing, amazing work, and the data really is what we use in order to connect folks. So I know that Nate and his team at OHSS connects with you often, and I just was so proud to sit with you all. And we had the best table, because we all got awards and all were speaking, and it was it was
Yeah,
the
table
best
eight.
table. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was the best table, and frankly, the best event with the guy was, Emma's doing this with her fingers. Okay, the news guy, I forget.
Oh, Malik Mingo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he was amazing. I was like, I need you to do all events, because he had such great energy.
I know. I told him, I was like, I wish you could like wake me up in the mornings. And that's like a weird thing to say to somebody, but it's like your energy is so like infectious.
Yeah,
So
he did really good.
he did a great job, and I was just proud to sit with y'all. But I know your 211 line helps connect people to services that are critical. And anything that we can do as a city in partnership with you all, I think is really effective. We just did something with Eden Center.
Wow.
Uh, just as an aside, I make dollhouses.
Oh, cool.
I create dollhouses in my spare time. Miniature dollhouses. I don't have dolls, they're dollhouses. Anyway, so I made one for Eden Center to donate to their clients. And what they were saying is they now have rapid rehousing vouchers, which
Oh,
they
wow.
hadn't had before. So just the fact that everybody seems to be pulling in the same direction, including Via Link, in order to shelter and provide services to our most vulnerable people, is just really amazing to me. So I thank you for all the work that you all do.
Oh, thank you. And
Oh,
I promise
thank
we
you.
didn't have you on just so that we could like humble brag about ourselves. But partnership is so amazing, and that's, I mean, something we are so truly passionate about at V-Link, and clearly, you have the evidence of showing how partnership is so crucial. I also love that you make so it's like housing all the time with you.
I know, I did put two and two together. Thank you for that. It is.
So in looking at the numbers, like you've told us, the impact, over 1,000 individuals have been housed, 8 encampments have been closed. What do these numbers mean to you, and what's behind that success?
Well, I mean, it really means individuals being connected with services. And again, when I say that these are our cousins, our friends, our family who are out here, I think a lot of people just look at the unhoused community as a monolith, and as nuisance, and as folks who maybe have some mental health issues, but that's not true, right? Again, many people, especially in New Orleans, are one paycheck away from losing their housing. So the over 1,000 people that we house means that we're building a stronger community and we're strengthening our community. So it's just critical that we continue this work going forward. And that's why we have a sustainability plan that we authored in connection with Clutch Consulting. It's a 10-year plan to sustain the momentum of getting people housed. But part of that is creating additional housing. So we know that we have a lot of blight in the city of New Orleans. And so my next step as the council person for District B is to take on our blight laws to figure out how we can get some of these blighted properties back into commerce so that people can be housed in a safe way, especially in city center, which
Yeah,
is close to jobs and services that they need.
amazing.
Oh wow, that's awesome. And I know you were just talking about it, but you did recently unveil the Home for Goods sustainability plan at the Quality of Life Committee meeting. What are some of the key top priorities?
Yeah, so again, it's sustaining the momentum that we have, making sure that homelessness is short, brief, and goes away, right? So that we are getting people into shelter quickly. The other thing is looking at our low barrier shelter, making sure that folks are not long stayers. We know in the past people have stayed for 2 years in our low barrier shelter. And that's not what needs to happen. We need to create flow through our shelter system so that people come into the shelter, have wraparound services, get the vouchers that they need, get the services that they need, get the problem solving that they need, and then go out of the shelter so that we can create flow. So that's the biggest part of the 10-year sustainability plan, is how do we create flow through the shelter system into housing and services. Again, it's really making sure that we're coordinating across all of our parties, our nonprofits, our business community, to make sure that we're all pulling in the same direction. And I know we have an election coming up, so we'll have a new administration. So whoever is the new mayor will need to make sure that they understand this plan and they understand the work that we've done, and the partnerships that we've made over the past few years in order to continue the momentum.
So, in looking at that momentum and administration changes and time as it does flow, how does this plan help ensure that the work that you've started is sustainable long term?
Yeah, it really does break down how we are doing this. That's what the plan does, how we've done this work and how we can continue forward. The other thing is that we need to make sure that our state partners understand the work and understand that we need funding. And so that was my big issue with the governor's sweeps is, again, you paid $19 million for a warehouse to warehouse 150 people when we had been asking for $8.5 million in order to house an additional population. And we never did get a response from our governor, even though I asked his people for that money and made the ask. But we need to make sure that our state politicians understand that this plan is not sustainable unless we have a funding source behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you are an extremely busy individual and work so hard with so much passion. We love to talk about self-care on Real Talk. What are your ways you give yourself self-care and take care of yourself so you can keep taking care of others?
Self-care and balance is not like, yes, look, I think my doll houses, my making miniatures is part of that self-care. It's something tactical. It's not tactical. What is it?
Tactile?
Tactile, yeah, tactile. And MSY miniatures, if you want to look at my Instagram, MSY_miniatures, you can take a look. Someone's laughing at me. Put up the link. You can follow me in my miniature journey. So I do miniatures. Listen, time with friends and family is critical to me. I have 2 rescue puppies, a brother and sister from Zeus's. They're part pit bull, part Boston Terrier. And
Aw.
they're super cute. And they're also on MSY miniatures. You can check them out there. Uh, they they provide a lot of hilarity and love and support. So I really like hanging out with my dogs, which I know we were talking, y'all were talking about cats, but
Yeah.
dog person. But I think that this work can take it out of you, and I think that your listeners should understand that it's sometimes it does get rough, and politicians are real people.
Yeah.
So, getting nasty emails or nasty comments on Instagram and social media doesn't really help us.
Right.
It can hurt us. So yeah, so just one of the self-care things that I've done is not go on Twitter. They've taken it away from me. I was like, you cannot go on Twitter. So I think that's part of self-care is ignoring sort of the haters out there and just continuing the work.
That's
I
an
like that.
amazing. It's a lot of insight. I mean, it's hard with social media, because it's so available, and ugh, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah, we could talk for an hour about that.
but on the other side of the coin, would you be able to tell us if there's been a moment or a story from the work that you've been able to do that's really stuck with you?
Especially around the homelessness work that we do. There, as I said, there was a family in my neighborhood who we were just walking under Calliope, and he came up to me, my former neighbor, and said, "We don't have a place to live. We're sleeping under the bridge with our baby." And so we were able to connect him with services and get them housed. And I remember him coming back through the neighborhood because he still has family in the neighborhood and being like, "Miss Leslie, we have furniture, we have housing." And, that's a real story from people who I've known for years who just fell on hard times and who are now um, in a better place than they were. So, I think that story sticks with me. Allison Port, my chief of staff, is my partner in all of this. And another one story I'll tell you is that there was a family who came down here for work. The mother was supposed to get a job here, and they traveled from the Midwest. They just needed a gas card to get back to where they came from. And so we were
Mhm.
able to connect with one of the petroleum companies to get them a gas card so that they could get safely back to where they came from. So it's these stories of sort of individual needs that we as a community can help with through Home
Right.
for New Orleans. Those are the stories that stick with me.
It's amazing, like thinking of a concept like the unhoused, and how kind of that is such a community concept, but really that it is so individual. Yeah, it's amazing. It's really impactful, and it's really inspiring to just hear your perspective of, I'm not just thinking of this as like a policy, I'm thinking of individual people, and it's really wonderful to hear.
It- and you have to, and that's where some of the folks who are like, I literally have had people say, you just need to turn fire hoses on them. And it's like, you don't understand that these are people. You need to go walk underneath the bridge and talk to folks to understand
Yeah.
what they need, who they are, and that it's not just, again, mental health issues or whatever, substance abuse issues. It's people who literally will have a tent and their work shirt hanging up,
Hmm.
leave, put on that work shirt, go to a job, and then have to come back to attend.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's what listeners need to understand.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
looking at it so individual that it is just giving that helping hand where it's actually needed, and then you have these amazing success stories.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Looking at the future, what's next for the city's homelessness response, and how can the community get involved and stay involved?
Yeah, I think again, if you go to homeforgoodneworleans.org, you can track our progress. So there is a progress tracker on there, and you can see how many folks that we've housed. That's updated, I think, daily. It's updated every 2 weeks, almost.
Okay.
Updated every 2 weeks. There's also a donate button. So rather than getting your morning coffee, donate $5. That'd be great. And again, if you see someone who seems to be in crisis, the other thing that this council has done in connection with Dr. Begno is establish the mobile crisis response unit. So if you see someone in crisis, you can call 911, and trained counselors will come out to help that person. And so that's been a real part of this response as well. So yeah, if you see something, say something. If you see someone who's in crisis, you can call 911. If you think that somebody is in need, you can call 311 and we can get them into the low barrier shelter or other shelters within the city.
And we would also just like to remind everybody also that 988 is always available for anybody who needs to talk, or if you're concerned about someone, or we can help remind you and connect you to services like the mobile crisis response teams. And it is a wonderful infrastructure that New Orleans has started. So just to make sure our listeners do know that dialing 911 in New Orleans, you can have the option to get to the mobile crisis response team. It's not just like an automatic only police presence or anything like that. It is specifically to get trained mobile crisis response to a person in need. Well, oh gosh, that I threw myself off. I wasn't planning to say that. But we are going to be sure to link all the ways that you can keep up with Councilmember Harris's initiatives, also MSY miniatures, MSY_miniatures, because I want to see these doll houses and the puppies.
Yes.
But we cannot thank you enough for joining us today. I mean, it has gotten me, I needed to hear this today. I'm so glad we
Yeah.
had this conversation. It's really inspiring. Thank you so much for your passion and your compassion for the people of New Orleans and the city of New Orleans. And thank you for being here with us today.
Well, thank you for all your work and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
All right, Jesse, you ready to try this sign off?
Yes, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. This has been Real Talk. No
No
filters,
filters,
no
no
fluff,
fluff,
just
just
real
real.
talk. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.